phrasal verbs. And so if some of you have been waiting for a phrasal verbs class, I'm glad to say that we're going to do a lot of phrasal verbs this year as well. And if you would like a book for phrasal verbs, I've already got a book out called Visual Phrasal Verbs. You can buy this on Amazon in black and white for £20, or you can get it in colour for £35. I'm sorry about the price, blame Amazon. Yeah, but you can get it for £20 in black and white. If you want the PDF version, that's available for £20 as well. It's very big, it's a large book, and it's got a lot of phrasal verbs in it. And so I would say 90% of the phrasal verbs on the board, which I took at random from media articles, are actually in this book. So please buy this book if you would like a vocabulary book. If you want a grammar book, try this book, and you can find both of them on Amazon. But you can get in touch with me under the video, and I will sell them directly to you with no Amazon, no middleman, just a little deal between you and me, sorry. Okay, so we're going to look at phrasal verbs today. And I really want to show you that you don't have to look for a long time to see these phrasal verbs, to find these phrasal verbs. They're everywhere. Please understand that English children learn phrasal verbs before they learn their Latin equivalents, the much longer words that are, in my opinion, more difficult. Yeah, they may be easier for you if you're from a European country. Those Latin words probably will be easier for you. But for English people, the phrasal verbs are the easy ones. And so you really ought to learn these words because you'll hear them very often. So the very first one that I came across, that's a good phrasal verb. The first phrasal verb that I came across today was to play out. Now, when you wait to see how a situation plays out, you wait to see how it happens, how it develops, exactly what goes on. And I saw this phrasal verb in a sentence which said, I think it was talking about the chaos in Washington, D.C. yesterday, some kind of riots or mobs. I'm not interested in American politics. I'm more interested in UK politics. But they were talking about the scenes, the chaotic scenes in the White House that were playing out, that were taking place. Very similar to taking place, but not exactly the same. Because I wouldn't say, let's wait and see how the situation takes place. I wouldn't say that, but I would say, let's wait and see how the situation plays out, meaning develops, and how the situation ends, really, how it develops and how it ends. But here, in this sense, chaotic scenes were playing out. It's a very similar phrasal verb to take place in this sense, but it's not always, okay? It can be more like develop. Okay, so we've got to play out. Something can play out, a scene can play out, or an event can play out, yeah? Well, actually, events don't often play out, but scenes certainly do, so it collocates very well with the word scene. So we're now seeing similar scenes playing out in Washington, taking place here. Okay, to lead up to. Now, I must admit this one isn't in the book, but up to certainly is. And I talk about go up to, walk up to, run up to, drive up to. All of these verbs mean approach. When you've got up to, just like over to is exactly the same, two other prepositions that are synonymous. When you say walk up to, walk over to, run up to, run over to, it just means approach by walking, by running, by driving. And so when you say in the days leading up to the election, you mean the days just before the election. And that is very common when you say something like in the days leading up to the war, in the days leading up to the election, in the days leading up to my wedding. It could be anything, but the days just before them. Okay, we had to cope with and to deal with. Most people are pretty familiar with this phrasal verb. When you cope with something, you manage with it. In fact, you could even swap this for manage with. Hospitals struggled to manage with the large number of patients, something like that. So to cope with, to deal with, to manage with, it means to be able to operate effectively. And so if you're able to cope with something, you can operate with it, you can deal with it. And so the article was talking about a large number of patients. Now, I'm not sure I believe the media, I don't know about you, but I certainly distrust the media. And when they talk about things like this, I think, what a load of rubbish. And so, yeah, this is a good one, meaning to be able to operate with that amount or that quantity. And certainly here it means the hospitals struggled to operate effectively with that number of patients. Okay, now in another article, this was also about lockdown. Obviously, there are a lot of articles at the moment about this lockdown, and it's why they're making so much stuff up. But they were talking about the shops, and of course the newspapers encourage people to go out and panic buy by scaring the living daylights out of everybody. And so everybody runs down to the supermarket, not me, but everybody else runs down to the supermarket and stocks up on toilet paper, for example. There's another good phrasal verb, stock up on. Yeah, it means to stockpile. Yeah, it means to pile something up in your stock, to stockpile, to buy as much of something as possible. And perhaps because you're worried that toilet paper will run out in a few months, which is strange. But yeah, so people tend to stock up on different goods, on, for example, toilet paper, when the media fearmongers. And so in this article, the media were promising everybody that there is plenty of stock to go round. In fact, it wasn't the media, it was the supermarkets. The supermarkets were saying, please don't panic buy, there's plenty of stock to go round. Now notice that this to go round, it can mean to have enough of something. Yeah, and so here, what the person's saying is we have plenty of stock for everybody. We have plenty of stock to go round everybody. Yeah, and that's what to go round can mean. It can mean to have enough of something. So you might say something like this: oh, there's 10 people here, there's only 8 slices of pizza, we don't have enough to go round. Yeah, meaning we don't have enough to give everybody in the circle 1 slice of pizza. Okay, so next one, to step up. To step up safety measures means to increase. The up here is certainly an increasing up. And quite often up means increase. When you pile books up on the table, it means increase the number of books. And when you step up safety measures, you make them stricter. You make the safety measures stricter in some kind of way, harsher, more severe. I don't know exactly who was stepping up safety measures. I can't remember. It was probably a supermarket or something like that was stepping up safety measures by making, I don't know, making you wear a mask or some other rubbish. Okay, so then the next one was to dust something down. Now this was in one of those silly articles you get about the royal family. They come out all the time, and it was something about we have something to celebrate apparently from we have something to celebrate about the royal family. I can't remember what it is. I really don't care about that particular family, and it was talking about dusting something down. Now, to dust something down literally means to dust, to remove the dust from something. So if you dust yourself down, by the way, you just do this. Yeah, perhaps you've fallen over, you've got a bit of dirt on you, and you could also say brush yourself off. You brush the dirt off. You dust yourself down, yeah? Now, if you're dusting down a tea set, and that's what it talked about here, dusting down a tea set to celebrate, I don't know what it was, something about the Queen. And so if you're dusting down your tea set, you're removing the dust and dusting down the bunting. I don't know if you know what bunting is. It's that stuff which it's been everywhere this year. I think everybody's been celebrating the lockdown by putting up bunting all over the streets in the United Kingdom, pretending that everything is fantastic and we've got something to celebrate. Okay, so we've got dust down, remove the dust from something. You can dust down any object and you can even dust yourself down. To lace up. Now, this one isn't in the phrasal verbs book, but the other ones are, because to tie something up is exactly the same. Your laces, your shoelaces, I haven't got any shoes in here, so I can't show you, but your shoelaces are the things that you tie up. So lace up is a synonym of tie up, which is a synonym of do up. Yeah, you do up your shoes, you lace up your shoes, you tie up your shoes. And so they were lacing up their ice skates in this article. It was about ice skating, and they were lacing up their ice skates. But this is showing you something important, which is that When you've already got a few phrasal verbs memorized, you will come across other phrasal verbs which are very similar. And we make up new ones all the time. You know, even if you've never heard lace up, you'll immediately understand it because you've heard tie up, because you've heard do up, and because you've heard shoelaces. And so lace up, whoops, so I've got to go quicker because my phone's running out of power. Lace up just means tie something up, do something up. It means tie up shoelaces. Okay, to take over a role, this was about a BBC TV show and somebody had taken over the role of Doctor Who. I don't know if you know this character, Doctor Who. A new girl had taken over the role of Doctor Who. In other words, she was now Doctor Who and she'd taken over the role from somebody else. And you can say it like that. She took over the role from somebody else. And you can also say that that somebody else stepped down from the role. And that means that they decided to stop doing that job, to stop playing that role. But you could say something like this: Trump is refusing to step down from the presidency, meaning he's refusing to leave. He's refusing to give up his space as president, or his position as president. Yeah, and so yeah, step down from, it means to leave a position in some kind of way. Now the next one was point something out. Very useful phrasal verb. Please memorize this one because you will hear it again and again and again. So to point something out really means to note. Yeah, I would say to note, you know, to make people take note of something. Yeah, when you want to point something out, you want to highlight it, you want to underline it, you want to say, look, I want to point this out because it's important. So I can't remember what was being pointed out, but you'll hear this all the time. So please start introducing it into your own speech. It will be very useful. Okay, to price something in. This just means to include something in the price. So very often people are self-employed and they have to give a quote. They have to give an estimate of how much the job will cost. And it's not an exact figure because they don't know yet how much it will cost. And when they give you a quote, they might say, I have priced in the windows, I have priced in the doors, I have priced in the floor, meaning they have included it in the price. That's all it means, to price something in, to include it in the price. So this in often means to include, yeah, to join in, to step in, not really that one, but to join in or to rope somebody in to something. Yeah, all of these are in this book. So please, if you want to know more phrasal verbs, don't forget to buy this book. Okay, to break out, this certainly is in the book. It said, the article said, chaotic scenes broke out in Washington. Violence breaks out, fires break out, chaos can break out, an epidemic, a disease can break out. Yeah, so be aware of this breakout. It's always negative. Negative things break out. And it's fire, violence, disease, war, conflict, that kind of thing can break out. So chaotic scenes broke out in in Washington. So to whisk somebody to somewhere. Now I've got whisk somebody away in this book. When you whisk your wife away on a romantic cruise in the Caribbean, that means you take her away, and it means really that you're doing something really romantic and nice and you're taking her away on a lovely holiday. So to whisk really does mean to take somewhere. It means to take somebody somewhere very fast. Yeah, this is what whisk you might know a whisk as in a mixer. Yeah, a whisk is actually a mixer. And so whisks go very fast. They're on a motor and they whisk the mixture. Yeah, the cake mixture or something like that. You need to mix it. And so that's called a whisk. And when you whisk somebody somewhere, or whisk somebody to somewhere, because I think that this too is not always there. Yeah, you could whisk somebody. No, it is always there. Whisk somebody to France. Do put that to in, sorry. Sometimes I think and then change my mind, but no, you whisk somebody to somewhere, and somebody was whisked to safety in the story. I think it was the riot or something like that was happening in Washington, and one of the politicians or women was whisked to safety. Okay, Biden asked for the mob to pull back. Yeah, he asked the mob, sorry, not asked for. He asked the mob to pull back. Now, actually, he called for the mob to pull back, and we'll deal with that in a second. But to pull back means to retreat. Nice, easy one. To retreat, to go back. Yeah, to go back, to retreat. An army retreats if it's under, well, if it's sustaining a lot of casualties and it needs to move back, then they pull back, they retreat. So just withdraw would be pull back. Now, an uprising is a rebellion. This is a noun, but it's from the phrasal verb to rise up. And so I put it in, an uprising is a rebellion. So they were talking about the uprising in Washington. And Joe Biden, the possibly new president, said that the situation bordered on sedition. Now, sedition is rebellion. It's an attempt to bring down, remember this phrasal verb here, to bring down, to topple the current system, the current authority. So Joe Biden was saying that this attack, these chaotic scenes that broke out, bordered on sedition. Now remember, border on means it's very close to. If your behaviour borders on insanity, it means it's close to being completely mad. And I would say that the political situation at the moment borders on insanity. I'd say that the fact that we've taken away education from children verges on insanity, criminal behaviour, to be quite frank, and the fact that children aren't getting any education, and they really aren't, not this year, is disgusting. And it's certainly the fault of all of those people who would like us all to be imprisoned in our houses. It's really, really disgusting. Okay, so the behaviour can border on sedition. We're going to go on to call for now. When you call for something, you demand it. You publicly demand that it happens. And so Biden called for the mob to pull back. Yeah, he demanded that this mob, that these people that were attacking Washington, retreat, that they pull back. But you can say something like this: this situation calls for rebellion. I actually think it does. The lockdown calls for rebellion. It necessitates rebellion. Yeah, it absolutely demands it. So do be aware that when somebody calls for something, they demand it. But when the situation calls for something, it means that it's necessary. It necessitates this thing. Okay? So I would say that, yeah, this situation with lockdown calls for rebellion. There's no other way that we're going to make sure the children actually receive an education. So we really do need to stop this. Okay, the lockdown is wreaking havoc on the education system and on the healthcare system. Very few people are receiving either anymore, and all because of a little cold. And so really this is wreaking havoc on the whole of society. And it's really because of those idiots that are making up stories in the media again and again and again every day to try and terrify us. I think such people are the scum of the earth, I really do. Okay, now this is wreaking havoc, of course, all of this is wreaking havoc on our social lives, on our education system, on our healthcare system. And the next one, to cave in, I think that the population has caved in. Here, when you cave into something, and I should put that there, you normally cave into the kidnapper's demands. When you cave in, you give up, you surrender. And by the way, cave in literally means to collapse in on itself. And so the sentence was, Trump finally caves in and agrees to demands. Yeah? He finally caved in and agreed to the demands of, I don't know, Biden, I suppose, or the current authorities. I don't know, not interested in American politics. But yeah, Trump caved in, but anyone can cave in, and if you cave in to somebody, you give in to their demands. Okay? Now, to bear something out, this is certainly in the Visual Phrasal Verbs book, so yeah, please do grab that book if you want to see some of these phrasal verbs and do some exercises to practice your understanding of a lot of this vocabulary. To bear something out means to corroborate. Yeah, maybe you know this Latin word. If you're in Europe, you probably do. So you might know corroborate, verify, confirm. This is what to bear something out means. Now, Trump actually used this one. He said that the facts bear me out. Now, that's not often how it's used, but I suppose it could be. Trump seems to think it's okay. Normally, it's used to bear something out. You might say something like this: the evidence bears out his testimony, yeah? Or something like that, where one thing confirms, corroborates, verifies somebody's story, for example. But Trump said the facts bear me out, meaning that the facts verify my position, my argument. But this is a very useful one, and you do hear it a lot, but it's very rare that you see this word in an English book or something like that, a TEFL book. Truth is, we've got too many phrasal verbs. We've got so many that you could easily write a dictionary just of phrasal verbs. And so it is tricky to get all of them in there, and that's the only reason why I'd say 10% of the words today on the board are not actually in here, although you do get some very similar ones in that book, and so still it will help you identify these unknown phrasal verbs. Now here's a good example: to kick somebody off Facebook. Now in this book you've got to kick somebody out, to throw somebody out, because usually you kick somebody out of a room, or you throw somebody out of school, you kick somebody out of university. But because with websites we say he is on Facebook or off Facebook, he's on Twitter or off Twitter, you kick somebody off Facebook and you kick somebody off Twitter. I think this was about Trump. He's been kicked off Twitter or kicked off Facebook. Personally, I think that's a pantomime. You can't kick the President of the United States off your website. He's the most powerful man in the world. And the idea that there's some kind of fight or conflict between Facebook and President Trump is for children, let's be honest. Okay, so you can kick somebody off a website. If you break into a building, that means you use violence or force to get inside somewhere that you're not allowed to go in. Yeah, like a burglar breaks into your house, and some of the mob broke into the White House. Okay, if you storm into a building, you go in there violently or angrily, certainly. You've got to be angry when you storm into a building. But remember, you can storm out of a room as well if you're angry. Maybe there's a meeting going on and you don't like what your boss is saying, you don't like what your colleagues are saying, and in the end you storm out. It means you leave angrily. So storm into and storm out of a building, meaning go in angrily or go out angrily. To speak out against, this means to publicly declare that you are against something. When you speak out, you publicly declare it to be true. Yeah, and so I can't remember who was speaking out against what, but I would like to speak out against the lockdown. And I've said it several times today. I think it's disgusting. I think it hurts children more than anybody else. And I also think that children are being denied what everybody else received when they were younger. So I'd like to speak out against the lockdown. And I think it's disgusting whenever I hear people defend the idea that we ought to be hiding behind our sofas, otherwise we'll all die. I find it ridiculous, and anyone with any kind of medical experience, I think, understands it's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm speaking out against the lockdown, and yeah, okay, the anarchy. Somebody was speaking out against the anarchy in the US, and so they were publicly declaring that this was a bad thing. Okay, so that's phrasal verbs for today, but please do get the book if you would like more practice with these. You can get it on PDF for £20 or physical copy for £20. So same price for this one, physical copy and e-version. It's just because it did take me a very long time to put together this one, and it's got a lot of pictures in it, and so I really can't afford to do it any cheaper. But this one doesn't have any pictures in it, and that's why it's a lot cheaper. This one's only £12 by PDF. If you would like it, please put your name below. And this one really is grammar. It's not vocabulary. I think it's, well, I wrote it to try to show how anybody can improve their grammar, and anybody, including native speakers, can certainly improve the way they use their own language. And so this is for natives just as much as it's for TEFL. The purchase link I will give you, it's my PayPal link, PayPal me, Mr. Skype Lessons. I've got one on PayHip as well. Yeah, just you can write me an email you know, if you want to buy this PDF. But I've got a PayHip link. But if you live in Europe, you will pay more to use that PayHip link, because the European Union take a huge amount of money in VAT. Yeah, some students have paid £3 extra simply because they're paying VAT. If you get in touch with me, I'll sell it directly to you, obviously. And so the reason why I'm not doing the PayHip link, or I'm not putting it up on the board anymore, is to try to save all of you money. And so if you want to get this book cheaper, send me an email. If you want to get it at a more expensive price and you live in Europe, maybe you want something official to show your boss, maybe you want to take it off your taxes, I don't know. But then you can use the PayHip link. There's a link on PayHip, perhaps I'll write it below. But when I found out they were taking extra money from European students, I stopped putting it on my board. I thought that was disgusting, especially £3 for a digital copy. Unbelievable, yeah? £12 price and then £3 on top for the thieves in the European Union. And there's no other word for them. I don't ship any hard copies. Amazon, the thieves in Amazon, do everything for me. And so you'll have to buy it from Amazon if you would like a hard copy, a paperback. I can't print any books myself. Okay, so thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate all your support. Please don't forget about these books. They're still available. Please go and buy them. You're supporting me. I will never ask for money for you from Patreon or any of that rubbish. I'll never beg money from you. But if you would like to buy some of the stuff that I'm writing to help you, that's how to give me money. I won't ask for money for mugs or t-shirts or any of that crap. You can buy the book if you want to get something that will help you English. Okay, so thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate all your support, and I hope to see you all soon.